Hi there. Today we'd like to speak to you about value stream mapping. Some people find it quite daunting. If you look at a value stream map, it looks very complex. However, there are basically 7 steps that you go through in order to construct a value stream map. Step 1 is where you identify who your suppliers are and who your customers are. Simple as that. Step 2 is to understand and to map the communication routes. Firstly, your supplier's method of ordering with you. Whatever those communication routes are, and the frequency of them and the method of them. And then you do exactly the same thing for the way that you communicate with your customers and the nature of the communication you then map. Step 3 would then be to lay out the process steps that you have in the process you've chosen to map. It doesn't matter if this process is a financial process or a sales process or a manufacturing process or any compliance process. If you have a process to operate and people that operate that process, you will be able to map out sequentially what the steps are. Step 4 is where the map starts to take on the characteristics of a value stream map. For each of the process steps that we've already identified, we then have to put down some meaningful data below each of those process steps. It's down to you as the mapping team to decide what data it is you place upon them. The only thing I would say is it has to be meaningful, it has to be measurable, and it has to be generated from solid data. You don't want to be putting information in a data box in a value stream map which is a gut feeling or an intuition. We have to base this information on solid data. So, step 5. We then put in how often and by which methods your suppliers physically deliver to you. Is it by air? Is it by rail? Is it by road? Is it by a mixture of all? The frequency, is it perhaps monthly? Is it quarterly? You would also put in at the other side of the map is how you then deliver to your customers. We now need to understand how your organisation controls the processes that you operate. For example, does each step in the process have its own weekly or daily schedule that they have to complete and satisfy? You would really need to do some investigation, and again, with all things associated with the value stream map, you have to assure yourself that the data has integrity and is accurate and is confirmed as being the actual way and not the way that someone thinks it should operate. So, the final step, what value does this add to your company? Because at the end of the day, what we're seeking to do is understand how this process benefits your organisation. So each of the process steps will have a data box. You would then put a cancellation line in below each of the data boxes. And for every element which adds value, we'll go to the top cancellation. And for every element which doesn't add value, we'll go to the bottom cancellation. Now this bottom figure would also include the processing of any inventory which lies between process steps, which you would have already gathered through your process mapping exercises. And at the end of this, you will have a total of the number of minutes or hours or days, depending on the level of process map you have chosen to do. You will have a number of value added units and then a number of total process units. And if you divide one into the other, you will have a rough value add ratio. From this map, you can then identify where your issues are, where your bottlenecks are, where your quality problems or delivery problems or supply chain problems may live, which then allows you to identify those as further activities to increase the value add ratio of this process and to increase the effectiveness of the process to your organisation.